Yes, everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Stephen Howson, and this is 5 things that we learned about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer this season. First up then is progression, and it's clear progression as well. Last season we finished 6th in the Premier League, and don't we know it, and we got to the quarterfinals of the Champions League, the quarterfinals of the FA Cup, and the 3rd round of the EFL Cup. This season, we come 3rd in the league, we got to the semi-finals of the FA Cup, the semi-finals of the Europa League, and the semi-finals of the League Cup. Yes, Manchester United should be winning stuff, but if you measure it against where we came in the competitions last season, we are literally better in every single competition. Simple as that. Number 2, Derby Day Demolitions. This season, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer managed to beat the so-called greatest manager in the history of football, Pep Guardiola, 3 times out of 4. And when you look at the 11s that were played in all of those games, the one that we lost, I put largely down to Phil Jones. Phil Jones and David De Gea and Manchester City's press absolutely destroyed us. But we actually won the remaining quarters of that game. That was the first leg of the League Cup semi-final. We beat them twice, done the double over them in the Premier League. One of the worst title defences in history. Absolutely shocking. But that aside, Manchester United did perform well against the Big Six. And yes, we absolutely owned Manchester City this season. We absolutely owned Chelsea this season. But for probably a poorly advised rotation in the FA Cup semi-final, we probably should have been playing an FA Cup final and probably should have got our hands on a trophy. United was the first team to take points off Liverpool this season and arguably should have beat them but for some horrendous defending and allowing Jordan Henderson to get an equaliser. United came second only to Liverpool in the top 6 mini-league, which tells me that we are competing and we've got good tactics against the rest of the top teams in the Premier League. What United have to do and what United needed to do was to be able to find a way to unlock the door against teams in the bottom half of the league. If you look at our run post-lockdown, you see all the teams that we struggled against early part of the season. Once we had Pogba and Bruno in the team together, suddenly we started opening them up quite easily. I think that was all it was. I don't think it was tactics in the early part of the season. I just think it was down to pure personnel. Nobody, I mean certainly Pep Guardiola, who needs to sign 15 more centre-halves this summer to be able to compete in his eyes next season. But no, can you imagine giving Jurgen Klopp Andreas Pereira instead of Bruno? Can you imagine what Pep Guardiola would have done if he'd have had to try and play out the back with Phil Jones? He won't play out the back with £50 million defender who can only play out the back in John Stones. Down to the personnel. And yes, Bruno had a massive impact, but Solskjaer signed him. I can't believe the arguments I hear from some United fans where you're like, it's only because of Bruno. Sweet. Well, was 1999 only because of David Beckham and Roy Keane? He brought them through. It makes no sense, that argument. Did Guardiola only win a Champions League because of Messi? No, yeah, leave that one. Bottom line is this. Manchester United competed this season. Manchester United actually went into games against the rest of the top 6 and looked to try and win those games, not to try and lose those games. And that for me was the massive difference between watching Manchester United under Jose Mourinho and Manchester United under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Number 3, no plan B. Now the season got off to a great start, an indifferent sort of time before Christmas. Right before Christmas, I was almost certain Solskjaer was going to be sacked because I didn't think we was going to get through the Tottenham and the City games, but we did. Then we started hitting a bit of a run of form just prior to lockdown, and then after lockdown, we obviously went on a pretty good run, which is what saw us gate crash into the top 3 in the Premier League and progress in all the cup competitions. But there was no plan B involved, and United went on to break a record for the most consecutive same starting 11s since Sir Alex Ferguson in like 1993. So that's something that's evident that Solskjaer is fairly happy with his starting 11, or I'm sure he wants to add to it, but he doesn't trust the fringe players. Now, players like Andreas Pereira, Scott McTominay, Fred, they all played massive amounts of football in the early part of the season and were yet nowhere to be seen. So that wasn't someone that he's just not seen enough of or anything along those lines. He just pure and simply didn't rate them. They were fit, they were available, and they were not selected. That tells me that he either doesn't trust them or they can't play the style of football that he wants them to play. United definitely need to find a way of playing that's different to our plan A. United need to have options that come off the bench. Solskjaer is often criticised for his late use of substitutes, and I think that's a valid criticism. He brings his substitutes on fairly late a lot of the time. But if he doesn't trust the bench, why is he going to weaken his first team? I also think that's a valid argument. Ultimately, Manchester United need investment into the first 11 and also into the depth of the squad. Solskjaer has been very good at getting rid of a lot of the deadwood, but now he needs to bring in some quality. What we saw with the Liverpool game at home when we managed to get a draw against them, United was winning that game and then Liverpool changed their entire midfield. 3 internationals went off for 3 internationals. United have nothing like that level of depth. And that, for me, is why you see Liverpool picking up that trophy and Manchester United wondering where we're going to progress to next. Number 4, he's developed key players. Now, at the start of the season, we saw Lukaku and Sanchez sent over to Italy, and we was like, right, we now need a record-breaking season from Anthony Martial and Marcus Rashford. And we actually got it. Marcus broke the 20-goal barrier, and so did Anthony Martial. Both of them having their best ever seasons. Not bad for a Norwegian PE teacher. What also isn't bad is not only trusting the likes of Mason Greenwood, but Mason Greenwood's transition from a youth team player into a first team player is the most planned and the most flawless that I have ever seen. Most youngsters get their opportunity because someone's injured. Anthony Martial literally gave Marcus Rashford his opportunity by going down injured against Midtjylland in the warm-up. Marcus Rashford then took that opportunity by scoring a couple of goals and got the opportunity because Zlatan was injured and Anthony Martial was injured. That's how most youth players get their opportunities. Marcus hadn't been seen, hadn't been given a minute prior to that. With Mason Greenwood, he's been dripped in 10 minutes here, 15 minutes here. We'll start him against this team in this cup, and his transition into the first team has been mint. He's chipped in, even though he's only really started post-Christmas, he's chipped in with 17 goals. I think it's no exaggeration to say that there is a 30-goal season in the future for Mason Greenwood. And it might be in the very near future. It might be next season, or it might be the next season after that. Mason Greenwood has got genuine world-class potential. But he had the world-class potential when Jose Mourinho was here and not playing him. Solskjaer has found a new lease of life in Anthony Martial. Marcus Rashford has developed from being someone that was supposedly had to go out on loan at the start of last season to someone that can find the net on a very regular basis. He always found it in the big games, but we never really saw any level of consistency from Marcus until we saw him playing under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer when it came to goals. He's not looked at his best post-injury, but neither has Paul Pogba, and I think hopefully both of those two come back after a little bit of a break and can hit the ground running with a sort of form that we know that both of them are capable of. Last season we saw an over-reliance on Paul Pogba as Manchester United's main creator, main goal scorer, and everything was on him in terms of pressure. Since Bruno has come in, you've seen Bruno take a lot of responsibility for the creation of goals, and you've seen Martial and Rashford and Greenwood step up. A good transfer window will see this development continue. The culture of the club has already changed, and it's a very, very short space of time. I am certain that with enough time and the backing of the board in the transfer market, Solskjaer is going to get this right. And finally, number 5, Solskjaer needs to add a level of ruthlessness. United went on an unbelievable run of over 20 games and dropping only a couple of defeats in that time, obviously the 2 semi-finals. We need to be able to turn up in the big occasion of the semi-final. We've managed to turn up in the big occasion in the league. We saw what happened in Paris. We know that Solskjaer's got the temperament for it and some of these players have got the temperament for it. But I think a little bit more now, so a little bit more ruthlessness can see 3 semi-finals turned into 1 or 2 or potentially even 3 finals going forward. We have to get a little bit more ruthless in the league. We have to start putting away some of these teams that had the cheek to take a point off us at Old Trafford or turn us over. We have to put them away. Football has changed so much from the early 90s where Sir Alex Ferguson said you can lose 6 games and win a league. The league is much less competitive than it was then. The teams at the top now are looking at losing 1 or 2 times and that is it. Manchester United, next time they win the league, are probably going to be just short of the 100 points barrier, which is nearly 20 odd points higher than what our average was winning the league under those 13 times under Sir Alex Ferguson. If United are serious title contenders, and I think we're a way off yet, I don't think we're quite there. If United are to be considered as serious title contenders, we need to be able to start putting the form that we saw in the last 25 or so games into practice in the league. We need to turn up at places like Anfield and have the belief and ability to go and beat them, even if we manage to only get a draw. We have to turn up at every single ground in the country and demand 3 points. And we have to do it week in, week out. And as fans, we also want to see progression in the cup competitions as well. Because if we came second next year and still picked up no trophies, I guarantee there's still a percentage of our fan base that would be saying Ollie out. United have had a decent season this year. It's been far from perfect, and we didn't win anything. So you can't call it a good one. But next season we have the opportunity to continue on the good work that we've seen, to build on the relationships that have started to forge post-January when we saw the likes of Bruno brought into the club. I think a strong window is needed. We've already seen a lot of our rivals start to strengthen. Manchester City are going to go off like a rocket because that's what Pep does. If Manchester United get backed anywhere like the rest of our top 5, top 6 rivals, then we're going to have a good year next year. We have to add to the starting 11. Jose Mourinho got to this point, his second summer, and he wasn't backed. He was given a backup goalkeeper, a backup midfielder, and a second choice fullback. That was not going to be enough to transform us from coming second into title challengers. The same mistake can't be made. I worry for that. When United get Champions League football, like the Glazers breathe out and go, that's all we wanted. As fans, we demand trophies and we demand titles, and that's what it should be about. But I just worry that the board aren't going to back him, and Solskjaer will be yet another fall guy for this ownership. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he's backed, and I hope we're having it next year. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Laters.